Right, guys, welcome back to Football United TV. This is the F.I.T.A show, Football in the Americas. We have a very exciting show about Colombian football tonight. We have a lot to talk about, not too long. So let's get going. All right, and we're back. So we have a very, very special lineup for you guys tonight. In addition to, as always, my main man, Johnny. How are you, my friend?
Good, good.
Yeah,
Excited to talk about Colombia today. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
absolutely, absolutely. So we have Esteban,
Hey
the
everyone, how are you guys doing?
Millonarios fan.
Yeah, I'm super fine, but today I'm wearing green, but my heart is blue. So
Awesome, awesome. So he's going to be talking about Millonarios and all of Colombian football and the national team. And we also have someone who's not Colombian, but who's been living in Colombia for a while now, and a Colombian football expert for sure. Simon, my friend, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Very well. Yeah, I've been here a while. I'm like Paisa Chiriao now. Been here a long time. And Esteban repping La Equidad,
yeah,
green, big La Equidad fan. The other team in Bogota that everyone loves.
I look like white.
Right. Yeah. In addition to being a sports journalist, right? Simon is also a sports director working in international sports community. Is that it? I'm sorry if I
Consulting, yeah. So I work with a
consulting. My
so I
bad.
work with, so I work with a football agency as well. So I might be able to give some insight into how that works with some Colombian players as well. But we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no, that's something special. I'll save it to the end though. All right, guys, we don't have too long, so I'm gonna try to be really quick. Johnny and I always try to stay within the hour, but we always fail. So let's see how it goes tonight. All right, let's start with this. Right, this the Categoría Primera A. It's what the Colombian league's called. I'm gonna show you guys the table. Just give me 1 second. But let me start with you, Esteban. Before you talk about Millonarios, how's the league looking right now? Like, no, before we get to that, what are the biggest teams in Colombia
Right now or historically?
historically? Before we get to right now,
Historically, I gotta go with the three ones that my friend Johnny has right there, but I will just skip one. First of all, of course, is Nacional from Medellin. They are, I
Okay.
think, is the biggest club in Colombia right now, and historically because they have won two Libertadores Cup. Also, America de Cali is the red one, the shirt you're wearing, Johnny. So um, they had a kind of a point in their history because they were 5 years in the second division, and then after them is just Millonarios as well. Those three teams are the top winners of the national league, so by far they are the most winners. But we have another two or three teams running to get to be the in the big clubs spot, like Santa Fe from Bogota, like maybe Cali from Cali, and also Junior from Barranquilla. They are just in the race to be biggest clubs right here in Colombia as well.
awesome,
You wouldn't
awesome.
put Deem in the mix there?
Not really. I think that
Okay.
they are a good team. They have won some leagues, but they are not that historical as Millonarios, as Nacional, as America.
Right.
So maybe that's the thing with them. It's just like a city team. You
Hmm.
don't get to know many people from, I don't know, from other cities that support Medellin, but a club is huge when you can go to any city and you will find a fan there.
Right.
So that's kind of my situation. I am not from Bogota, but I am a Millonario supporter. So
Yeah, I think
Okay.
one interesting aspect of the Colombian league is, and in Colombian football in particular, is the big cities all have two teams. Often you'll see in, for example, Uruguay, there's one city. All the teams are from the capital, and there's a few others. Same thing with Peru. Same thing with Paraguay. One thing about Colombia is that it's a very diverse country. Each region of the country has a very distinct culture. An interesting fact is in 1900, it was quicker to travel from Bogota, where Esteban is right now, to Liverpool than from Bogota to Medellin, where I am right now. Today, it's a few hours, well, maybe a 10-hour drive, 40-minute flight. But there was such, each city was so separate because of the geography and because of the history that each city kind of developed in its own way. The racial mix is very different in different areas of the country. There's a predominantly Afro-Colombian region. There's a lot more indigenous people, certain areas, more European influence. And also because there's many big cities, that also has an impact on the football as well. So obviously DIM don't have a strong national following, but they're very popular in large areas of Medellin. And often in Medellin, Bogota, and Cali, you have the teams that Esteban mentioned, Millonarios in Bogota, Nacional in Medellin, and América de Cali, which are the national teams that have support around the whole country. And then Santa Fe in Bogota, Deportivo Cali, and Medellin are kind of seen as the rebellious teams. They kind of position themselves against the traditional powers. We're the team of the city, we're the team of the people. And that's kind of their culture. So in Medellin, all of the banners for Independiente Medellin have lots of X's, Resistencia spelled with lots of X's. And part of their identity is Nacional is the king of the cups. We're going to kind of dethrone them. We're going to take their spot. We're going to upset them. We're going to ruffle their feathers. And that's kind of part of the interesting aspects of the rivalry when you have two big teams in a lot of the major cities in Colombia.
Awesome. I mean, I feel a little stupid. That happens a lot when I'm here with Johnny, by the way. So I'm not gonna feel bad. But you guys keep saying Dim. I don't see that. Is that a nickname of a team?
Independiente Medellin,
Yeah.
the team that's in fifth.
What?
Deportivo Independiente Medellin.
Aha.
Yeah, there's a Deportivo there as well at the beginning, which isn't always included in the full name.
Okay.
It's a team that's in
Gotcha.
fifth right now. Yeah.
Fifth.
The
Okay.
fifth, yeah.
Got it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for clarifying that for me. All right. So, let's move on to the present. Before we go any further, can someone care to explain to our fellow European watchers here, how does the league work? Is it similar to Argentina in any way?
No.
No.
Not anymore.
Just in one way, I think. I think it's changed.
To
To
talk
Mexico.
about a league that we spoke about in previous podcasts, Charlie, I think it's more similar to Mexico right now, where the
Okay.
league is separated into two halves,
Yeah.
and the top eight in each half go to a quarterfinal and so on. So it's very similar to Mexico right now.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. We play two championships in the year, one from January to June, and the other one from July to December. And as Johnny mentioned, we have two matches left for each team, and after that, the first 8 teams will start a playoff league. They will be separate into 2 groups, 4 teams in each group, and the leader of each group at the end of everyone playing against everyone will be the 2 finalists, and the final is going to be two matches. It's going to be 2 matches, one home and away for every team, and yeah, that's how it works.
All right. Awesome. Very confusing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
kind of. Yeah, it's not the system that we should be having, because it doesn't award or reward the best team during the 6 months.
Yeah.
Because you can qualify as 8th, and at the end you can be champion. Like last December, the Cali team, the green one, they were the champion, and they entered to the playoff. I think they were 7th or 8th, and they ended up winning the league. So it's kind of a joke for some teams, but is what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also
I'm
it's
kind of
literally possible in Colombia to get relegated and win the league within 3 weeks. So there we go.
How
Interesting.
I was gonna ask about relegation. How does that work?
Yeah,
And
so-
how does
so-
that? They just-
If you found out the championship confusing, the relegation system is way more
Yeah.
confusing.
So relegation is calculated over 6 seasons or 3 years, and the teams that get it's calculated. So it's the total points over 3 years. How many points you have, and the bottom 2 get relegated. Also, the teams that get promoted adopt the points of the team they replace. So if you get promoted, you basically start the relegation table, because there's a separate table for relegation calculating all this 3 years, with potentially 15 points behind. So you can have, because there's 2 seasons a year and relegation's only calculated at the end of the year, you can be terrible for the first season, win no points. Second season, you're amazing. You finish 8th, 7th, 5th, 6th. You go through to the playoffs, you win the championship, but because your previous 5 seasons were so bad, you can still get relegated. So there's a team that can be, talking about relegation, going down, preparing for the second division, and then 2 weeks later they win the playoffs and go to win the title. So yeah, it's complicated. Basically, the idea is, in terms of this system, is one, to try and keep the big teams in the top division. The idea is maybe a team has a terrible year, but they probably won't have 3 terrible years if they've got more money than a lot of the other teams. They've got more fans. Also, the idea in terms of the short seasons and the playoffs is to try to keep things interesting. When Colombian teams are doing well, the stadium is full. It's amazing, incredible atmosphere, 40,000 fans singing the whole game. When a team is playing badly, like 5,000 fans, no one turns up. And partly that's a result of the system, and partly the system's a result of that attitude. Because their fans are like, well, I'll come back in, 5 weeks' time when we're good again, when we start again. So it kind of plays into it, and it keeps things interesting. Like, there's 2 rounds of games to go, and if you look at the table, there's like 6, 7 teams all fighting on the final day to get into the top 8, which is really exciting. Probably the most exciting day of the year in many ways. And there's all teams have something to play for. It's not like, the US, you have teams at the bottom of the table who give up with, 2 months to go. Yep. There's usually something to play for, unless you're a big team that's right at the bottom of the table. Like Deportivo Cali are just playing their kids now because they're focusing on the Libertadores. They won't get relegated. So there's nothing to lose, basically. So there are some positives in terms of the excitement and in terms of packing the stadium for these big games and having more competitive games. But also, it does kind of feed into this idea that, we'll come back when you're good. You know what I mean? There's not so much loyalty, apart from the hardcore fans who are going to be there every week, celebrating, chanting, screaming, booing, whatever,
Yeah. I mean, the movement of fans not attending the stadium when the team's good, when the team's not doing well, like, it's exactly the same in Brazil. And we have a very straightforward league.
The thing about Brazil, I think it took so Brazil had a similar league system until 2003, and then it switched to what almost every European league is like right now.
Well, but relegation was never like that.
No, except for relegation. No, not relegation.
This relegation system, we took it from Argentina. They had it before. We took
and
it
River
from
Plate
them.
still managed to get relegated.
And America got relegated as well. So,
but I think it took Brazilians about 20 years to understand that every game is important and all the 3 points matter. If you look at the attendances in 2008, they're not what they are today. They were a lot worse. So I think it's also a cultural thing. You got to stick to the same system for a while for people to start understanding it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, final thing I got to ask. Well, not final, but one of the last things I want to ask is, at the very least, like, international qualifying a little more straightforward. Like, is it simple? No. Wow. Okay. I was expecting a yes here.
It's a 3rd league table.
Yeah, we have like a combined table that we call like the reclasificación. Like, is where you have the points that you got in the year. We played 2 championships in the same year, but we have another table to take a look at your performance during the whole year. Okay. So that's different. That's another table. Yeah, like Simon said.
That's a little more straightforward though, because it's gonna
So
amount
you have
yeah.
the champions 1, champions 2. You have the cup, and then for the extra places, you can fill it in with the reclassification table. So
Yeah.
the best teams who didn't win the league or didn't win a trophy, if they got a good overall yearly performance, they could also earn a continental place in the Libertadores or the Sudamericana.
And does the
Right.
cup give you a spot in the Libertadores or the Sudamericana?
Sudamericana one.
Sudamericana. Okay.
Okay. I like the fact that we get Libertadores in here. Uh, Big up, DX. Hope you're doing well. Thank you. Thank you for checking up on us. All right. Well, I'm gonna go to both of you here. Simon doesn't really have a favorite team, but you do have your like.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
So look. I mean, I want all the Colombian teams to do well in the Copa Libertadores
Yeah.
for professional reasons. Apart from everything, I don't care. Millonarios come in, whatever team, that's good
Yeah.
for me. It's good for Colombian football. So I'm supporting everyone in the Libertadores. I have a soft spot, obviously, for my local teams. I was probably a fan first of all of Atlético Nacional because
Mhm.
that's the team I was taken to. It's one of the big teams here. I was in with the Populares in El Sur with the crazy fans, Los del Sur, and it was a great experience. I've also been in with the crazy fans in Medellin, in the north side of the stadium. But a team I have a bit of a soft spot for in the league, and I always like to follow. I'm a season ticket holder. Actually, my face appeared on the first season ticket of Envigado. Envigado is a tiny team. The stadium is 10,000, pretty much full of kids and relatives of youth players. But what they have is an amazing academy. James Rodriguez, Juan Fernando Quintero, Dolan Pavon, Gio Moreno, Frank Fabra, Mateus Oribe.
Oh
Now we've
wow.
got Yasser Espria. Like basically the whole of the Colombian national team, more or less, came from Envigado. Alongside Deportivo Cali, it's probably the best academy in Colombia. So it's a fun team to follow because you go and see all the kids coming through. Right now, there's a guy called Yasser Espria who's joining Watford in the summer. Played for Colombia already. He's 18. He's one of the star players, 19 now. So it's always good fun. The thing is, the playoff system means that even if they have an amazing season, I remember one season I think they finished first or second, went to the playoffs and got absolutely destroyed by Millonarios because there's no experience. They're all kids.
Yeah.
They're all kids and they're all old. So when it comes to the big games, and also it's quite hard to get the decisions in your favor when nobody involved in the league wants you to win. So I'm not calling it corrupt. I'm just saying if there's 50,000 fans calling for a decision and there's about 15 people in the other corner, that definitely helps as well a little bit. But yeah, it's good fun to follow someone like Envigado, and they're doing really well this season as well. Looks like they could make it into the playoffs, so that would be good to see them get into the playoffs and then completely mess it all up. But it's good fun to follow an underdog, zero expectations, and it just really, really annoys the big teams when they lose to Envigado. So that's always fun. No one credits Envigado. They go, "How could you lose to them lot? A bunch of kids."
All right. Well, Esteban, if you have anything to talk about Envigado, please do so. But how's Millonarios doing? I'm a Fluminense fan, so I know you're not in any international competitions this
We're
season.
not. Thank to you and your team, Charlie. But I think we're doing very good right now because we are following a plan. We are following. We have been working with this coach for almost 2 years now, and we already reached a final. We lost against Deportes Tolima, the one that is in first now, and last year we lost in semifinals, and right now we are almost there in the playoff. We are second. Actually, we are facing Deportes Tolima this weekend to check who's going to be in first for the playoffs. So we are following the great steps right now. We have great players, a great combination between youth and old people. So the thing is that we haven't won in a while. Our last championship was in 2017, I think. So right now fans are asking for trophies. We are asking for trophies because we didn't make it to the Libertadores Cup, and now we haven't won our league because we lost last year. So it's kind of frustrating because we are playing okay, but when we go to the finals, it's like, what is going on? You know, Millonarios is an historical team, and we have the team to win everything here in Colombia, but we're missing some things. We are missing some details. So I hope this semester is our semester, because we have this chance now, and we will have another chance in December. But I wanted to make it this for in June. We will be speaking about hopefully about the new Millonarios Championship.
Awesome, awesome. What in case you guys didn't pick it up, it's very close to the word in English, but millonarios means millionaires, right? Like
Millionaires,
how
yeah.
do you know the history behind that name?
Yeah, actually, it does, because in early 40s, where the when the team was born, they were bringing some players from other countries back there. So it was like, hey, what are they doing? Actually, Millonarios is from Bogota, but the founder of Millonarios is from Barranquilla. So it's kind of funny, because he came from Barranquilla to here, and he started to take some players, great players from other countries, and also a lot of in that time, go to the stadium was kind of for wealthy people. So he's like, okay, this is the team from the millionaires. This is the team from the millionaires. And the founder said, oh, that's kind of cool. I like it. We are the millionaires. So they decided to name it Millonarios. But a long time ago, we were called Club Deportivo Los Millonarios. But now we are only Millonarios FC Football Club, and that's it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Thank you for that, Johnny, my man. For a long time now, well, not that long, but for a couple of years now, Brazil's dominated South America. But if it's not Brazil, like it's Argentina. Do you see? I feel like Colombian clubs have been like the third power recently. Do you see them? Well, Simon disagrees with me. I'm going to give him
It's
the
quite
going to give him
generous.
the.
We'll come to that later. Yeah, go. Sorry.
Do you see Colombian clubs growing to be able to compete with Brazilian or Argentinian clubs soon in the near future? And if not, like how long or why?
Um, it's hard to say just because of the nature of South American soccer. As soon as a player does well or a team does well, the players leave to somewhere else that pays better. So it's hard to say. It's hard to predict the future, but Atlético Nacional was the last team to win the Libertadores. That's not Brazilian or Argentinian, right?
That's why I said
So,
what I
so,
said.
so yeah, so that says something. I think Brazil's the only country that wasn't deeply affected by the lockdown, and so it's hard to see. It's for me, it's hard to predict, but I do see as Colombia as the third power. To be honest, if not in the Libertadores, because other countries have big teams that maybe are in better shape, but as a league as a whole, I think Colombia is the next one down after Brazil and Argentina.
Okay.
Um, but
Oh,
we'll see. I really think the Colombian teams aren't doing bad this year. So with a little bit of a luck of a draw, maybe one of them can make it far. I was just watching Cali and Corinthians yesterday. Actually, that wasn't a great game to name one, but Tolima I think is going to go through. I think they're going to beat Del Valle and get the second spot in that group with Atlético Mineiro. They're an interesting team. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, in the Copa Sudamericana, I know that Junior Barranquilla, like they're in the tough group with Fluminense, and it's really competitive right now. Like we have no idea who's going to go through. But I just want to very briefly talk about Atlético Nacional, and well, I hope I don't bother anyone, but I feel like they have a really cool, like rich history. They were once like very associated. Correct me if I'm wrong. They were very associated with Pablo Escobar, right? At some point, uh, back in the '90s, right?
80s and 90s.
1980s, yeah.
1980s. Okay, there you go. And I feel like they recently, I don't know how that was outside of Brazil, but recently they very much so like cleaned their record with the whole thing that happened with Chapecoense. In case you don't, that was
Was
against them, right? The
TR.
final.
Yeah,
No,
the Sudamericana. Yeah.
of course it was. But still, like if you guys don't remember, Chapecoense is a Brazilian club and they were going to play the final of the Sudamericana against Atlético Nacional when they had that horrible. There's something weird with someone's sound. Okay, I think that stopped.
Yeah.
They were going to play the final against Atlético Nacional, but they had that horrible plane crash where everyone but 3 players passed away, and only one of them was able to remain playing soccer after that. And Atlético Nacional just handed Chapecoense the trophy. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was something nice to do. It was a little obvious, right? Like it would have been really ugly for them not to do that, but still, you have to accept it. It's not every day that you get to a final. They were favorites in that final as well. So, yeah.
I think 2016 was a huge year. That was the year that Nacional won the Libertadores. I think they were by far the best team in that Copa Libertadores as well. Like Once Caldas, for example, won the Libertadores, but that was like a miracle. But I think this Nacional experience was very, very different because they were the best team, and they were incredible. The team again was filled with top players. Davinson Sanchez in the defense. It was a very well balanced team. Mateo Uribe coming in during the campaign. Miguel Bojo in great form up front. It was a really nice team. Magnelli Torres, Marlos Moreno had a great year.
Yeah. Armani, Borja.
It was a great team, yeah. And that year I think was great for Colombian football. I feel it's been kind of all downhill since, more or less. But that entire year, and obviously the Chapecoense experience as well. Not only did Nacional hand over the title, but the stadium was full, 45,000+ fans during a ceremony when they invited the Chapecoense families over, and that was great. And I think living in Medellin, people associate the city with a lot of negativity, and there's a lot of jokes about drugs and all that kind of stuff. So I think people in the city are very sensitive about that side of things. I'm very keen to show a different side. I've lived here for over 10 years, and the people are incredible. And it's great that they had, even if, it was obviously a horrible situation all around, I think, but it showed the best side of the city. So I think it was a great year for Nacional on the field, and it also showed what the city is all about. And as a representative of the city and the country, I think they did Colombia proud that year. In terms of where Colombian football is in the Libertadores, the difficulty is, so Colombia definitely should be at least the third best team in South America. The talent is incredible. Not only is the talent great, but there's such a diversity in profiles of players. Like, for example, clubs, if they want a big centre-back, they'll go to Cauca, which is a relatively... There's Valle, which is where Cali is, but there's another region called Cauca. All of the Colombian centre-backs come from Cauca. And it's like villages. It doesn't make sense. Jerry Mina, Zapata, all these guys all come from this region. And then they'll find a lot of the more kind of creative, quick players in the Caribbean and the creators. So Colombia has such incredible ingredients to build a team. And the clubs go scouting specifically in these regions. Youth football is really strong. There's an under-14s tournament, Pony Football, which is huge, gets thousands and thousands of fans. Like, I think it's over 100,000 fans come to the games across the tournament, and it's an under-14s tournament. So there's all of these amazing ingredients. There's big cities with lots of clubs. Here in Medellin, I don't think it's so true in Bogota, but there's AstroTurf pitches in every neighborhood, which are free.
I have a pitch in front of my house that actually. So yeah, it's football is like a religion to Colombians.
But for me, the problem is there are no coaches, there are no managers, there's no ideas. For me, it's similar to Brazil. Now, I think Brazil has brought in some European coaches and fresh ideas, and that's why they're so dominant, because the money's there, the talent's there. They should win the Libertadores every year, and now that they've brought in some Portuguese coaches, some foreign influences, they're starting to realize that. But there's no Colombian managers who could work in Europe. Not one. There's more ideas, there's more culture, there's more coaches in Uruguay, which is a town, which is a city, really, than the whole of Colombia. So for me, the problem is not the talent. The problem is not the ingredients. Physically, the players are there. But you watch Colombian football and it's give the ball to the 10, jerarquía, more eggs. And it's like, where are the ideas? You know what I mean? The defensive line is so deep. The strikers are so high. The defensive midfielders running around like a maniac. The wingers aren't dropping back. The number 10 standing still. So for me, should Colombia be the second or third strongest nation in South America? 100%. Are they going to get there? It would require big change, and I think people are complacent. Yeah, there's not really a lot of big questions being asked. So I'm excited by the Colombian talent, but I think they're let down by the coaching and by the system and the lack of ideas in Colombian football.
There is something very important as well. I think Simon can agree with that, and is that the spots for the regional leagues, I don't know, for Sudamericana and Copa Libertadores, they are like made for Argentina and Brazil. You know, like how many teams there are in the Brazilian league? Like 20?
Yeah.
20.
I know like 12 or 13, 14, they qualify to Libertadores and Sudamericana.
Basically,
Same-
if you don't get relegated, you qualified for European
You get-
competition.
for
continental.
continental. That's correct. And same happens in Argentina. You know, you see Libertadores is full of Brazilian and Argentine teams. So getting there means money as well, you know, and we only get like 3 spots, 2 direct spots, 1 spot in the like 4th behind match, 1 spot in the 3rd behind match. And if you get 3 matches, you get to the group stage. If you don't get there, you can get a try in the Sudamericana, but if you don't get there, you will be out of nowhere, you know. So not getting those spots, like distributing it better for Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, whichever country you want to mention, it will make that the money from the Libertadores will stay in only one country, and that will fit the things that Simon was speaking about. The possibility of bringing some old legends from other teams, like William that he's playing in Brazil like now, like Hulk, but we cannot afford a Colombian team. Is super difficult to afford bringing him, for example, Falcao. You know, bringing Falcao back to the Colombian league is kind of a dream for everyone. Bringing maybe, I don't know, James Rodriguez, because we are not able to afford it, and that's because CONMEBOL, they only have they only have eyes for Brazil and Argentina, and that's where they should split those 14 spots better between other countries. Those, I think Brazil gets 14, Argentina gets like 12, and then the other countries get like what, 4? So
Yeah.
I think as well it depends though. For example, you know, Junior never really compete in the Libertadores, but they brought across national team players.
oh yeah, that's correct. That's
And for me, the issue with Junior for years has always been Teófilo Gutiérrez. That's not a popular thing to say because he's a brilliant player in the Colombian league. And you saw Deportivo Cali, they signed Teófilo Gutiérrez, they won the league, right? He's a very influential player. But when it comes to Libertadores, he's just not good enough. Not anymore. Not anymore. And what happens is he comes in, the whole change room gets divided. Junior had Rodriguez, who went to the World Cup with Peru, never played a game. They had Alves, the top goal scorer, Jonathan Alvarez, Ecuadorian, top goal scorer of Barcelona, never played a game. And they met their position was always, these guys are always injured, they're not serious. Like, if everyone you bring in doesn't play, it's probably your fault. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't just get unlucky. Also, the Chilean national team player as well was there. So I think, of course, money always helps. But I think Brazil have shown that money alone isn't enough, because Flamengo spent huge money for years and years and years and were a disaster.
Gremio.
Didn't really do anything.
They got relegated, right?
Yeah.
Ninguno.
Grêmio,
exactly.
Oh,
Grêmio.
Grêmio, yeah.
But before Flamengo brought across these Portuguese coaches, before they had a clear identity, they were always just a load of high-paid superstars who didn't really achieve anything, you know. So I think the fact that Paraguay, the fact that Ecuador are outperforming Colombia, like that shouldn't happen for me. Like that shouldn't be the case, but I also think that Ecuador, particularly Independiente del Valle, shows that it's possible to rectify some of these issues because they have an identity. They've built upon the raw talent, the physical attributes, the technical ability, and they've created a European system in terms of coaching and identity. And it's the best. It's one of the best clubs in South America over the last 5 years. So I think there's definitely potential. And I think for me, the issue in Colombia, and sorry, we can move on. For me, the issue in Colombia is Colombian players are brilliant at the difficult stuff, but are not good at the simple stuff. And in the tough moments, they lose their heads. You know, it's frustrating because the talent I see in Colombia is above the UK. The players are more technically gifted, reduced space, creativity, dribbling ability is way ahead of the UK. But there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of discipline, there's a lack of collective play. So that's my big frustration because the ingredients are all there. I just don't see the chef who's going to put it all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, there's been a couple here, but that's a great segue into our next topic. By the way, Maddie, I don't know if you're watching right now, but whenever you watch this, I'm sorry, I don't think we're going to stay within the hour. But Johnny, my man, I think Esteban's confident that this could be the season that Millonarios wins it all. Who should he be the most afraid of? What are the clubs that are going to give them the hardest time this season?
Tolima, I've liked watching Tolima. They just barely lost the final last year against Cali. I actually watched the second game in Tolima. It was so close. They conceded a goal, I think, in the last 10, 15 minutes, which gave Cali the title. And they're in first place again. They're doing well in the Libertadores. So I think they're right there, right? Same amount of points, same amount of victories. So right now, I think it's between those two teams. I think you can never discard Nacional. I love a couple of players that play for Junior. I'm a huge Borja fan for almost no reason because
when he's not in Brazil, he's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, these guys obviously follow the Colombian league closer than I do. I've watched these teams play more in Sudamericana and Libertadores than in the league. But to me, it looks like the teams that are right now top four are the top four contenders to the title.
Okay. Yeah. We see nodding heads in agreement here. I think you're right. Awesome. I mean, the next point, let me take that out so you guys learn. By the way, like it's tough to call the relegation thing like because of the whole system. So we're just gonna move on without touching relegation now.
I mean, from what I know, the little I know, Magdalena, like they're almost for sure gonna get relegated, right?
Because of what Simon explained, it's because they just went up this year, so they started with this bad background to play the league. So it doesn't make any sense, but.
Yeah.
They will for sure.
They're terrible anyway. They deserve to go down. Plus, if you saw how then you can't really complain.
Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is press the wrong button here. So we're just talking about the fact that if they're not, like Colombian teams probably should be the third power in the continent. When you talk about something happening with the sound, is it just me hearing this or is anyone else?
I hear it too. Yeah.
You guys know where it's coming from?
There.
Okay, it stopped. Oh, it came back. I think it might be you, Esteban, because I muted. No, he muted. Simon muted himself. That didn't happen. Oh, but now it seems to have stopped. Oh,
it came back.
Yeah, it was you. It's you, my man.
But that's crazy. Let me take a look because I'm using my microphone. So
yeah, it's all good. I mean, most of the time nothing's happening, but every now and then that attacks. But when you're talking about national team, it's even though like Uruguay is just like it's something special, right? As Simon said, it's a city. It's a city. They have two world. My bad, Esteban. They have 2 World Cups. And they're way back in the day, but still, like you look at the players they have right now, most of the superstars are aging players, of course, in Cavani and Suarez. Well, Esteban's going to be right back, guys. He's just sorting out the mic issues. And but you also have like amazing players like De Arrascaeta. You have Valverde at Real Madrid. Like they're fantastic. But Colombia is probably the fourth power when it comes to players, like the amount of talent they have in that country. And I feel like you guys addressed most of the issues. I feel like it's going to be a similar conversation here. But Simon, and like starting with you, why do you feel like what are the main reasons why Colombia didn't make this World Cup? They finished sixth, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and well, I mean, mostly because they scored fewer goals than San Marino over 6 games, which is never ideal. I mean, look, I mean, you can say put the ball in the back of the net, and again, that's obviously you look at the results, and they didn't concede very often, but they couldn't score. Obviously, again, you know, you look at the bringing in Rueda seemed like a sensible option, as kind of safe pair of hands, a guy the players generally liked, a respected guy in Colombia. Not a very exciting appointment, but I think one issue that Colombia have had is there's a lot of rotation, a lot of different players brought in, kind of, and I think in the qualifying this year as well, there were lots of panicking in terms of the decision, the substitutions in particular. Like sometimes the game was going okay, but they couldn't score, and then they'd make a lot of changes, bringing in guys who'd never played for the Colombian national team in, you know, the final rounds of fixtures in the World Cup qualifying. Yeah. If they weren't good enough a year ago, why are they suddenly the solution now? And it just felt like panic. Just throw everything at it. Let's see if something sticks. So even in games at times when Colombia were in control, they were trying to find the goal, they were struggling, but they looked in control. They would make changes, bring on 4 forwards, and then just fail to progress the ball to the attacking third. So I think there's been a lot of extremes, a lot of drama around the national team. Look, in terms of the quality, Peru are quite terrible, to be honest. Now, I say that with full respect because they're at the World Cup. You know what I mean? Like, they've got an aging squad. They've got the domestic league in Peru is terrible. And they've not really brought through any new players in the last 5 years. But they're going to the World Cup because of consistency, because of discipline. So respect. But you look at the quality that Colombia have, and they should be at the World Cup. And I think sometimes there's a sense in Colombia to just go, the reason is we haven't got this guy playing, or it's just down to one individual player. You put that striker in, we'll score all the goals. But it's never that simple, you know? It's never that simple. Mm-hmm. And I think even, for example, 2018, Colombia made it to the World Cup. An issue for me that they had was they used like 60, 70 players. You know what I mean? Like, it was just everyone gets a Colombia cap. So I think they probably need to, and again, I think bringing the youth players, the U20 system as well is poor. So few important Colombian national teams had any caps for the U20. So why is that the case? So I think there's a process, because Uruguay, you look at the under-17s, you can see the players who will be in 5 years' time the star players in the first team. You look at the Colombian under-17s, maybe you'll get one who has a Colombia cap. You look at the under-20s, and there's so often players who've had like premature physical development and scored a load of goals at youth level because they're 7 foot tall against, you know, a load of kids. And then they'll get into the under-20 national team and they'll never do anything else in their career. So I think there's some institutional reasons. I think there's some short-termism. I think the pressure got to the players, and you know, and they could have just put the ball over the line once and they'd be at the World Cup, you know, in 7 games. So, you know, there's long, big answers to this question, and there's a simple question, you know, simple answer that if Zapata gets that ball on target, it's a goal. You know, you can look at the short-term and the long-term answers. Yeah, so I think Colombia is good, but, you know, they didn't do the business.
Not good enough. Can you hear me better now, guys? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we could always hear you fine, but now you don't have that
background noise. Okay, great. Sorry for that. I think there is another reason, and I don't know. Maybe I can say it because I am from here. I'm Colombian, and we have always discussed about this. You guys know it's no secret for everyone that football is business. You know, it's about business. Everything's about business. But when you take it like even to the national team. And that's the reason why Simon said that there were like 60 players in in a matter of 3 years, 4 years, 60, 70 players playing for the national team. Is
Wow.
because yeah, because mainly we it's not 100% confirmed, but that's what regular people discuss about, is that the directors, the businessmen from the national team, they just want to put some players to get them into Europe, to get them into United States, to get them into Mexico, because they can get some money from those business. So that's what we say, that's what we think, and that's the reason of why aren't you, I don't know, taking maybe Sinistera, why we took Sinistera just in the last 3 matches when we has been having like a great performance over the last 2 years in Holland, you know, because maybe his agent wasn't speaking with the right people of the national team, you know. Why aren't we playing with other players that are in Europe because of their skills and not of their agents? And also because the Colombian dressing room is full of egos. It's full of egos, and it's not easy to have James Rodriguez, that is such a great star in Europe, and Juan Guillermo Cuadrado as well, because what we see and what we think is that we took out this coach, this Portuguese coach. I forgot his name now.
Queiroz.
Queiroz, that's correct. We took him out because players they weren't agree with like Queiroz method, you know? And they just think, you know what? If we lost 6-0 against Ecuador, we are going to take this guy out. And they only think about themselves. They don't think, because Colombian players get paid to come here to Colombia and play with the national team. They get paid for everything. You know, they are not. It should be an honor play for a national team for
Yeah.
everyone, but
Yeah.
they made it another income for them. So they weren't agree with that, and it just ended up bringing out another coach that it wasn't good enough, that because we are just trying to fill the holes that we have here. And basically that's it. And we were the team with the most draws during the whole 2021 in the whole world, and we have Zapata that is top scorer in Italy. We have
Yeah.
Morelos that is top scorer in Scotland. We have many great players, and the question is, why aren't we able to make those goals? So it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of frustrating for everyone right now. But I think that most of the Colombians also said, okay, maybe this is the time to make a change. You know, it's time to say goodbye to those legends now, because we look at them as legends: Cuadrado, Falcao, James. I don't know. Many other players that have been there. It's time to make a renewal in the
Is
whole
Cuadrado
team.
not doing well anymore? I thought, no, I know Falcao and James are now what they used to be, but is Cuadrado not playing that well anymore?
Well, it's kind of the same with Zapata. You know why he's not able to make those great crosses in Colombian national team as he made it to Cristiano Ronaldo, or whoever is now in in Juventus Blaovic. Why is he not able to make those great skills and dribblings and getting to the final line and just score a goal? It's the same question, because they want to be part of they want to be the star man, you know, they want to be in the spotlight here. uh, I want to be more, I don't know, like crowded than Falcao, than everyone. So there's a rumor that says that even Falcao, I know Falcao, no, James and Cuadrado, they got into a fight alongside with Muriel, and back in the Queiroz era, that they went into fighting. So it's difficult, because if you are not considering this as a national team, but only as your chance to get again in the spotlight of the world, like it's not going to work for anyone.
I actually have a question for you guys since you guys live in Colombia. I'm curious. Do you think that the fact that they only play in Barranquilla has any effect at all, or is that just like a bar discussion?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
If they were living in Barranquilla, it makes sense, you know? It makes sense that, okay, let's bring other teams here because it's super hot. It's like 38 degrees and it's super humid. But those guys play in Europe, you know? They are used to play in different weathers, but bringing them here to Barranquilla, it affects them as well, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, there's definitely a sense from fans elsewhere in the country that the fans who attend the games, the national team games, aren't the kind of fans who sing and
They're
aren't the
there
kind
to
of
take
fans
the
who dance.
selfies and
It's all of the influencers, it's all of the rich people who go for their
Business.
holidays to Barranquilla, to the beach. It's not quite the same.
which is the exact reason why they first decided to only play in Barranquilla, right? Because of the idea that people from the coast are more warm and loud, and right. Originally,
Yep.
I think that was the idea.
Basically because it will be make more difficult for, I don't know, maybe teams like Bolivia, Argentina, that are cold places, to come here and play against us. But it didn't work like that, you know. Like I just said, these guys, they play in Europe. They can, some of them even play in the snow. So what that's made you think that he is going to perform well here in Barranquilla? He's in the same situation as any other player that comes from even Brazil, even Argentina, Uruguay. He's going to be in the same reason. He's going to get tired because of the weather.
Yeah.
Is
And
that a
I
real
think
discussion that's being had in Colombia right now to move the national team to Medellin and Bogota?
Yeah, definitely. And people as well, I think it depends as well the style of play you're going to play. You know, if you're looking to, because the thing is the games are slower. The games in the hot weather, you know, we're talking 40 degrees. The game is slower. So if what you want to do is keep the ball and pass it, and if you've got Magnelli Torres playing the through balls or whatever, like, then that's fine. You know, if you want to have a slow, progressive build-up play, then go to Barranquilla. But Colombia have been trying to play a lot in the transition, particularly with Queiroz. It's been counter-attacking. It's been quick counters. You don't really want to be running up and down the length of the pitch all game with these quick counter-attacks in that kind of heat. So, you know, Bolivia show how effective it can be, but they really adapt their game to the particular conditions. They just shoot from 40 yards constantly, basically.
And because most of their players play in the Bolivian league, you know?
Exactly. So I think it's a big question. And also, while Junior do have some passionate fans, they don't have very high attendances. You know what I mean? Like, you compare it to the teams in Medellin, the stadium's half empty a lot of the time. So of course the national team games are full, the stadium's full, but again, it's tourists. It's mostly tourists. There's a lot of questions about that. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't always play into Colombia's hands, and I think perhaps an approach where you look at the game and go, okay, this is going to be a game where we're pinned back and we're going to have to defend. Let's choose a venue that suits that system of play. You know what I mean? Like, you have that option. You see teams do it, like Ecuador suddenly moving a game to Quito when they would usually play in Guayaquil. You know, because this is the approach we're going to take. So it definitely can be a factor, but yeah, it definitely doesn't always help Colombia to set up and to play the games at 4 p.m., 3 p.m. in Barranquilla.
It's because also the Barranquilla Stadium is the biggest in Colombia. You know, it comes again to business. It will make more money. You know, if we will be smart, we will take Brazil and Argentina here to Bogota because it's higher than Barranquilla, and then move to Barranquilla to play against Peru and Bolivia that are like used to play in high and cold places. We can play with different situations, but we don't do it because of that, because on playing in Barranquilla will give more money to the rich, so it doesn't make any sense.
And also, I mean, the Barranquilla government as well invests a lot of money in these kind of events. So I have no inside information, but they invest a huge amount of money bringing events to the port city. So I'm sure they'll be very accommodating to the Colombian F.A. in terms of choosing a venue.
Yeah. If you guys were about to watch this and thought, yeah, a bunch of South Americans, it's going to be positive. Not always. Not always. A lot of negativity here. Well, before we move on, because I'm really excited about this next part, because we're going to talk about the players that we expect to see in Europe soon. And this time we're not just guessing, because we have Simon here with us. But what, if you were to guess now, guys, do you feel like the next World Cup Colombia is going to be there? Do you see a nice batch of talent? I know that Simon said that the youth system for the Colombian national team is quite hectic. They're not very smart about it. But do you guys feel like they're probably going to be in the next World Cup?
Well, I think first of all we have to take into consideration that a World Cup with 48 teams means that CONMEBOL is going to have what 7 berths, 8 maybe.
I
So
think it's going to be
Ooh.
another secure spot, the fifth one,
yeah,
and another.
so
What do you
like
call that in English? Like the
it's like a playoff.
playoff, yeah, playoff match, another
So
playoff match.
basically everyone goes except Venezuela.
Yeah, that's a Venezuela and Bolivia.
Yeah, I think that Colombia definitely should. I think Peru is in decline. Chile has got an aging squad. Venezuela haven't made the progress we thought they might make.
Yeah.
And Bolivia can only win at home. So if Colombia don't make the next World Cup, that's it. Close it down. Let's just do beauty pageants and baseball.
All right. Well, does anyone have anything? So you guys reckon it's going to be 7 teams going to the World Cup?
Yeah, I think it's going to
6 and a
be
half.
7, 6.5.
Okay,
Yeah.
6.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because of the playoff match.
Yeah, teams are going to have to fight quite hard not to make the World Cup then.
It's
Yeah.
going to be just like the Brazilian league, just if
Yeah.
you don't get to the World Cup, you're just
Yeah.
going to stay there for years.
Yeah, in Brazil, there's certain teams that qualify to the Libertadores where they, like America this year, for example, where they're saying America didn't go to the Libertadores. It was the Libertadores that went to America. So, I think it's going to be something similar in the next World Cup qualifier with some of these teams.
All right, so let's we're obviously not going to stay within the hour, guys. We apologize for that, but it's been fun. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. We're briefly going to be talking about who can we expect in Europe soon. I'm going to put the screen back here. Okay, let me take the text out of Esteban's face. My bad. I mean, this is just what Google's showing me. Like we can go wherever you want, Simon, but before even getting to Simon, who's going to talk like more specifically about the players like he's more familiar with, Johnny Esteban, like do you guys are there players that you see like from either Millonarios or just like regular football that you watch in your everyday life that you expect like big things from? That you feel like could be perhaps the next Falcao, the next James, or going way beyond that, like the next Valderrama, for example?
Actually, it is regular or normal from us to, before going to Europe, we do another step. People
Yeah.
are used to go to maybe Argentina, Brazil, or Mexico, and then
Mhm.
make a great move to Europe.
Yeah.
But to be honest, besides Yasser Asprilla that Simon already spoke about, that he already signed for Watford and he's joining them this summer, I think the next
This
big
guy.
name is going to be Daniel Ruiz. Yeah, Daniel Ruiz is the one you see at the left. Daniel
Mhm.
Felipe.
Yeah.
He is just the next big thing. It's not only because he plays for my team, but also because he is just different. He is the typical magical player, the one that always you look to pass the ball to. He is different. He has great vision. He has great passing. He has great shooting, and is the one that he should be starting with. He already started with the under-20 national team, so he would be start with this process joining the national team. But in terms of other people, is just like a guess, because you can be performing well right now and then move to Argentina and get completely lost.
Yeah.
and it happens a lot. So it's the only name that it comes to my mind right now.
Okay. Well, just very quickly, Johnny probably assumes I assumed I was going to do this, but before going to anyone else, what did you guys have any specific thoughts on John Arias, who used to play for Santa Fe? He's at Fluminense right now. He's a good player. Like I think he should be a starter. He's not always a starter, but he's a real talented player. Not that young. I don't think he's going to go to Europe and like shred
He,
shred
he
anyone.
wasn't that good here. He wasn't that good. I actually have a lot of friends from Santa Fe,
Yeah.
the club he used to play for. And when Fluminense won, they even laughed at me. Said like, "Dude, John Arias scored. What the hell? John Arias scored!" And, like, we couldn't believe it. So, but yeah, I think sometimes you can move to Brazil and just make another great year and be in Europe in 2 or 3 years. So I hopefully he can develop there and start adding something to the national football.
Okay. Okay. Johnny, you were laughing a little more than I wanted you to. Like, what's up? What are you thinking there?
No, you know what I was thinking? It's slightly off topic, but there was São Paulo, the team I go for in Brazil, got a midfielder from Santa Fe called Jonathan Gomes, who won the Sul-Americana, I think, with Santa Fe in 2015.
But he's from Uruguay.
Uruguay, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But, man, horrible. One of the worst midfielders I've ever seen play for São Paulo.
And he was great here. He was super different. And if you take a look at him and Jonathan Gomez, he looks a bit like Messi, you know?
Yeah, he has like the red beard.
Red beard and everything. So he was super good here. But
he was the number 10, right, of that team that won the Sul-Americana, but in Brazil. I mean, and he went straight from São Paulo to the second division, and he hasn't left. He still like plays in the second division in Brazil. So weird ending to that guy's career.
I recognize a lot of these players. Yoni Speedy Gonzalez. I'm a big fan of his. He used to be good. I mean, his career just.
Mate of mine.
What?
No, yeah, he's a mate of mine. Yeah, Johnny Gonzalez. Yeah.
All right.
We got
So,
it.
Simon, it's gossip time. What can you tell us?
I can tell you who I'm hoping to move. So, obviously, Ruiz, very, very interesting. Left-footed playmaker, can play anywhere behind the number 10. Esteban's already mentioned he's probably the most technically gifted young player. Lots of maturity. Is already a leader at Millonarios, the creative leader in a lot of ways. So he's already very interesting. They already rejected an offer from, I think, Botafogo, no?
Yeah.
So looking about $4 million. So Belgium, Holland, potentially.
I was actually going to joke with Johnny that Botafogo is probably going to change their name to Bilionario, because that's what they are now.
Yeah, now that they have the John Texter, Crystal Palace money.
Yeah. Keep going, Simon. My bad.
Ruiz is really good, and there's already talk of him, potentially being involved in the national team friendlies before the end of the year. So definitely one to watch. As I say, James Rodriguez, with a bit more of a work ethic, will be a slightly generous, but I think a fair kind of introduction to him. I think he's a good player. Aside from that, a player who is maybe a little bit under the radar, but has been attracting a lot of interest, including from 2 or 3 Premier League teams, is Juan David Moscara at Medellin. Can play as a right back or as a right winger, a 19-year-old. Very, very quick, very good, much better going forward than he is defensively, but is a really, really sought-after player because he has the profile. The thing is about often the best Colombian players don't ever play in Colombia. They move abroad because the thing about Colombia as well is that at the under-17 level and at the under-20 level, in the club game, the best teams are not the professional teams. This is it's very, very unusual in terms of world football. But for example, if you look at the Colombia under-17 national team that played the last World Cup, most of the players were not signed to professional clubs. You look at the Brazil squad, they've all got 50 million release clauses. They were at Sao Paulo, Flamengo, Real Madrid are already signing checks for Vinicius or whatever. Whereas the best Colombian player at the last U17 World Cup was Peñalosa, hasn't really pushed on, but he left Colombia from an amateur team to go to Spain for a nominal fee. So there's a very interesting opportunity for foreign clubs to acquire Colombian players directly from these academies. Because the thing is, running a professional club in Colombia, for most of them, is just a way to lose money because there's no fans in the stadium, right? So if you have an academy that's producing lots and lots of top players, just sell them abroad. Just retain a percentage and send them abroad. Make the money that way. You don't have to host professional games and pay for floodlights and police and all of the costs involved in that kind of stuff. So often a lot of the best players move abroad directly, and that's been the case. There's Estudiantil here, there's Ciclones, there's Football Paz, these academies who win international tournaments. Football Paz beat Internacional of Brazil, and that's an amateur academy.
Wow.
And they've actually moved one of their players, two or three of their players have moved straight to Brazil There's Kevin Quiñones at Internacional. There's a striker, Quijada, at Gremio. These are 18-year-olds who've never played professionally in Colombia. So you miss a lot of the guys. If they stay in Colombia, then it's a different path in a way. But in terms of other names of players I like, Fabian Angel, I think, is a very good player at Junior, 20-year-old central midfielder, like 93% pass completion last year, which is impossible in Colombia. He's a defensive midfielder. He lacks a little bit in kind of athleticism and ball winning, but very, very mature. Again, a real leader. And he's available super cheap this transfer window. $250,000 loan with an option to buy. So he's one I think could move quite easily to Europe. Aside from that, I mean, I like Juan David Cabal at Nacional, left-footed centre-back, incredible athlete. He's 21 now. I think his physical attributes are excellent, but he lacked a little bit of the confidence when he first broke into the first team. But he can play as a left winger or as a centre-back. You know, he's very, very quick, has the ingredients. Yasser Asprilla, obviously going to Watford already. He's stayed on a little bit longer in Colombia, but he's a very talented player. He's a mix between a winger and a number 10 and a number 8.
Okay.
He can kind of do everything. Good passer, very quick, very sharp, creative. So yeah, plenty of players knocking about. And then I think a lot of the best players kind of moved in December, to be honest. So I think we're a little bit short for the summer window in Europe because a lot of guys moved. Emerson Batalla moved to
Miami.
Argentina.
Emerson Rodriguez, the one from Millonarios?
Emerson Rodriguez, but also Emerson Batalla moved to
Okay.
and also Erwin Moscara as well has done really well in Argentina. So quite a few players moved later in the January window. Pablo Ortiz moved to Midtjylland. So I think there's a little bit of a shortage for the summer. But for me, Fabian Angel, Juan David Mosquera. Juan David Mosquera is probably the one with the most interest right now. 2 or 3 Premier League clubs like him. And I think if you ask 100 Colombians, nobody would say he's the best young player in Colombia. But he just fits that profile of a very attacking, athletic, quick fullback who can play as a winger. And I think that's just an easier adaptation. You know, if you want to bring in a playmaker, it's hard to find a spot. But people can see Mosquera and go, okay, well, he can go up and down all day from fullback. That's someone we can work with. You know what I mean? So it's not only the ability, but it's where they would fit in European football. And that can be a tricky thing. You know, we've seen Juan Fernando Quintero, who I absolutely adore, but because of his style and because of his lack of physicality, has found it hard to find a good level in Europe.
Awesome.
How about Campas that just went from Tolima to Grêmio not too long ago? I'm a fan of him.
He's such a great player.
I love Campas, yeah. I like Campas. But I think Brazil can be a big mistake. Obviously, Campas has done really well, but we've seen Colombians go to Brazil and like Colombian wingers. If you're a Colombian winger, do not go to Brazil because there's a 17-year-old who's coming up.
You should do the opposite. Exactly.
I think that's important to go to a place because Colombia has so many good wingers, right? But they all get lost because everyone's a good winger in Colombia. There's so many quick wingers. So for me, it's always interesting to see players who go to a league where they bring something different. Because we've seen bang average Colombian wingers smashing it in MLS. Like Dajome doing so well in MLS, and he's like an average Colombian winger. Nobody expected it, but he's quick and he's direct and he's tricky. So like Andres Amaja went to Internacional, which is insane because what's the point? You know, So I think Brazil can be great. Candido's obviously doing really well there, and there's some good players who've done really well in Brazil. But I think you have to be careful with Brazil. Like Marlos Moreno went to Brazil to kind of recover his career. And within 6 months, Vinicius Jr. had appeared and taken his spot. You know, you're just not going to compete with that. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Anyone want to add anything to that? I'd say like the last like special thing to come out of Colombia, Luis Diaz. He's playing really, really well right now in England. Yeah,
Luis Diaz. In terms of a young player, Luis Diaz was a great young player. I mean, there's players who are doing well in Europe, and sometimes they're not. You know, even someone like going back, like Alfredo Morelos, I think shows the depth in quality in Colombia, because he was like a substitute at Medellin when he went off to Scandinavia, Finland, and kind of took the long route to Scotland. I think it shows that you don't. The thing is, at professional level in Colombia, there's so little depth. There's so few clubs. There's 2 divisions. There's 2 adult divisions of national football in Colombia. So there's so many players that get missed, and often they'll take the long route. You know, like for example, Castañeda, who was at Sheriff in playing against Real Madrid in the Champions League. Like he left the Deportivo Cali academy on a free, disappeared, and then suddenly he's popped up in the Champions League playing for Sheriff. I don't know where they're from. Where's Sheriff from? Moldova. And now he's kind of built his way up. So I think there's a lot of talent in Colombia, but I think sometimes the players have to take the long route to kind of get noticed. Even Candillo was in the 2nd division in Colombia for quite a long time before he got picked up by Junior and showed how good he is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
Not really.
Yeah, we've spoken about a lot of players, guys. If you wanna look into them a little further, that's you have a lot of names to find out a little more about. By the way, I totally forgot to say this in the beginning, but in the end, by the end of the show, we're gonna show you guys Johnny's website, Golazo Kits, and we have a special promo where you're gonna get how much off, Johnny? I always forget.
15% off.
15% off anything Colombian in his website, right? So both the national team and the league as well.
Clubs, correct.
Yeah, I checked it out myself. A lot of really, really, really cool stuff. We'll show you in the end. Okay, now we're gonna go to this is always one of my favorite parts. We're gonna talk a little bit about the legends of the Colombian game. I was telling these guys in the background that from my stance, there's 3 names that immediately come to mind. I feel like it's a consensus, right, that Valderrama is the biggest player in Colombian history. And
we can debate it right now with Falcao and James in the table, but
okay.
as they're still active, maybe we also have Valderrama as our greatest thing still. Yeah. But it will come to a time where we discuss about Valderrama or James or Falcao, definitely.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming Valderrama was bigger, like in the national team, but James and Falcao had amazing careers in Europe, right? So, assuming that plays a huge factor. But I always think about Higuita. If you guys don't know who that is, like probably one of the most emblematic goalkeepers of all time with the scorpion save. You guys must have seen that.
That's more charisma than skill, though.
Still, like he's a legend. Come on. If you haven't seen the scorpion save, please just type in Higuita, scorpion save, or just scorpion save. It's going to be Higuita. He's the only one that does that. So it's just someone that was really, really fun to watch. The 90s were quite amazing for Colombian football. And for us Brazilians, we got to talk about Diego Rincon also because he just passed away from a tragic car accident. I'm not Colombian. I can't know that for sure. But I read in multiple places that he has scored the most celebrated goal in the national team history, right? Like back in the 1990 World Cup against Germany. That's the one that got them to advance in the group stage. Huge player. I think he was the captain for Corinthians when they won the Club World Cup back in 2000.
Yep.
So, he's huge in Corinthians. He's huge. He's I think he is more famous in Corinthians than he was for Santa Fe or America where he used to play.
100%.
Yeah. So those are the 3 names that I have in mind. So I want to give you guys the room completely. If you want to talk about these 3, mainly about Valderrama, because I feel like most people right now in Europe are probably not familiar with him. And he was such a good player. He was so charismatic. Probably the coolest haircut in football history. So if you want to talk about him, and if you have more players to add to the list, in addition to James and Falcao, let's start with whoever. Yeah, whoever wants to start, just go.
Since we were talking about Rincon, I guess I can start talking about him. And like you said, he unfortunately died in a tragic car accident. The fact that I love the most about Rincon, especially considering that he played for the 3 biggest rivals of my club, was that he's a player who played in 3 distinct positions throughout his career, right? He started as a striker and then moved back to an offensive midfielder and then eventually became a defensive midfielder. So that was kind of the evolution in his career. And I think that goes to show how skilled he was, how versatile he was, and how adaptable he was, because that kind of happened because as he progressed in age, he started getting a little heavier, a little less fast. And he adapted that in his game and started moving back in the field and actually got better and better as that happened as well. So that's not something you see commonly. And extremely, it was extremely impactful in Brazil. Lifted all the trophies you can imagine. He's definitely an idol.
Yeah. Huge.
Well, I would like to add 2 names or actually 3 for the ones that you already mentioned, because we always stay with the 90s gen of the national team because it was the greatest time of all our football history. But with those 3 that you already mentioned, I would like to add El Tino Asprilla. El Tino Asprilla, he played a lot for Newcastle and also for Parma. He is really, really loved in Parma because he took away the 40 winning streak from the AC Milan of the Dutch players. He scored a hat trick against Barcelona in a Champions League, so he's huge. He was such a great player, but once again, his mentality and personality didn't allow him to be even better than he was. And I would like to add 2 names that they are old enough now, maybe people from the 70s and from the 80s, that are Willington Ortiz. Willington Ortiz was another thing. He was called the Black Pele, the Black Maradona. He was called the Black Maradona.
Okay.
He actually has
Black
a
Pele
picture.
wouldn't have.
Yeah,
been
it doesn't fit that much. I'm
Yeah,
going to send you the
yeah.
link from this super famous picture of him with Maradona, because he was called the Black Maradona because he was such a great player. But at that time, being Colombian and like stepping up in the football wasn't super common. So he was amazing. He was another thing. He played for all the big clubs in Colombia. He played for Millonarios. He played for Cali. He played for America. He played for different, but only here in Colombia. He is a great legend. And the other one is the one who held the. There's the
We're
picture.
just quickly showing. There it is.
Yeah,
So,
there it is. Maradona was a huge fan of Willington Ortiz. He always chanted him as the greatest Colombian player ever. And the other one is Arnoldo Iguaran. That's the one that held the top scorer for the national team before Falcao came in. So he was a great goal scorer. Those kind of players that are super fast, super skilled, and he played like over 60 games for the national team. But because he is from a time that we didn't qualify for a World Cup, because we didn't win anything in particular, he is not that recognized worldwide. But here in Colombia, we love those 2 guys because they gave a lot in a time where we were struggling with many things here.
awesome. Simon, my man. I really want, if you can, I'd love for you to talk a bit about Valderrama. But if you have any other names that you want to throw into the hat, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to decide who's the greatest Colombian player, because there's longevity, there's impact at club level, impact at national team level, impact at World Cups. I would put Ivan Córdoba in there as well as one of the greatest players Colombia's had, although he didn't play at a time when Colombia were very strong. So I think that kind of affects his impact and reputation. But Valderrama was an incredible player. He always had the ball and never had the ball, because he would get it, it would be gone. He'd get it and gone. He was so composed and so controlled in the ball, so much confidence. He would always be available to receive, and everything would kind of come from him. And I think if you look at the impact he had on the national team, I think James wouldn't be the player he was without the legacy of Valderrama. And I think in some ways as well, it almost did damage to the national team of Colombia, because after Valderrama, the best player at every club was a Valderrama. There were so many number 10s. Give it to the 10. But he was an incredible player. That goal you mentioned of Rincon in 1990 against Germany, that game where Valderrama just got it past it. And obviously the game that we haven't mentioned, which is the other in Colombia's history, is obviously the game against Argentina in Buenos Aires, where Valderrama, Rincon, Asprilla were kind of the stars. The other guy in the midfield was Leonardo Alvarez as well. And I love him because he looks like a telenovela villain, with a perm mullet up until very recently.
And mustache.
He looks like a pirate. He looks amazing. The thing about Colombia is they love a mullet. You mentioned Higuita with the perm as well. But the hairstyles were strong. That 1990-1994 team had so many great players and so many characters. Obviously, as well, I'm here in Medellin. I'll have to mention Andres Escobar, who obviously was a player who was murdered. I think that 1994 team gave Colombia so much hope at a very difficult time, one of the most violent periods in Colombia's history, and it gave the team a reason to be proud. And going to that World Cup in '94. Maradona said, Pele talking about Colombia as one of the favorites, and obviously the pressure of the situation and the craziness of everything in Colombia at the time meant that great team didn't perform to their level. And obviously Andres Escobar, who was one of the stars of that team, who was on his way to Italy after the World Cup, was obviously murdered after Colombia's elimination back here in Medellin, but was a great defender and seen as a great person and had a great influence on that team. Was the sensible one in a team full of big characters as well. So it was particularly hard for Colombia to see this gentleman of the game lose his life to the craziness. So it was a difficult time. But even in that side as well, there's the most celebrated players, but there's some great players. For example, one of my favorites, De Avila, Anthony Pitufo De Avila, was.
Do you know what Pitufo means, guys?
Yeah, the Smurf. The
Smurf,
right?
yeah.
Because he was like 5 foot. He was tiny, but he was also a player who played for América de Cali during the period where they got to all of the Libertadores finals. I think, was it 4 or 5 in 10 years?
4.
4, yeah.
4 in a row, and then a 5th one shortly after, right?
Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah, so that was he was the star player for them, and he was tiny. They also had Valenciano, who's the thing about Valenciano I don't understand is during his career he was always like severely overweight, like el gordito de oro, like the golden fatty, like, and then he retired and lost all the weight.
He looks super fat, super fit. Yeah, he looks fit now.
Like, why didn't you do that during your career? You would have made so much more money. Like you don't get thin when you retire. That's when you get fat. So yeah, some great characters, and even like, for example, my first ever game in Colombia was Atlético Nacional against Envigado in like 2009, 2008. And it was a Copa Colombia game, so there was like 5 people in the stadium. Like 3 p.m. kickoff, nobody was there. I went to the game, and behind me in the stand was Viktor Aristisawa, a player who's obviously had a big impact in Brazil. I think the all-time record foreign goal scorer in Brazilian football. But this was my first time in Colombia. So the reason I knew who he was is because he was my star striker on Football Manager. He was a so I always signed him. He scored so many goals for Ipswich Town. I didn't tell him, but that's why I knew who he was. But a great player as well. And so many great legends. I mean, Neda Morantes. I'm an Envigado fan. So one of those 10s that came in after Valderrama.
Those super slow 10s that they ask for the ball and just give it away right immediately.
Absolute luxury number 10. And I love the fact that I was watching him for years at Envigado, just moving less and less every game. And he would just always want the ball. But he had the balls at about 38, like severely overweight, hadn't run in years, to demand a pay rise. I respect that.
Did you know that one time for one championship, and the name in the back for Neider Morantes, he used toque, like touch, because he wanted to see that his teammates, when they see his shirt, they immediately touch the ball to him. You see it right here, say toque, so give it to me.
I know the trainer, and they said like the team would go to the gym and everyone's doing the workouts, and he just like lift a couple weights and just sit down and be like, yeah, guys, just come on, just sit me afterwards. Like, yeah, he's a character. A character. That's what Colombia football has. I mean, the fact that last season there was a goal scoring table of just goalkeepers. You know what I mean? The impact of Higuita lives on. Nelson Ramos scored three goals in 3 games, which is beautiful, including one from the halfway line. So there's still some eccentricities. You talk Rene Higuita, and I think obviously there's the craziness, but the fact that he kind of revolutionized that position, I think is something that has to. He gave the calm to that team, that Colombia team. The fact that even after losing the ball in 1990, he was so important in participating in the play, building the play. We see modern goalkeepers who use their feet. I mean, Higuita almost won a penalty because he ran the length of the field and was fouled in the opposition penalty box. So, I mean, we're talking a real character, but also a great player. And I think Colombia missed him in '94 because he was fearless. And I think many people will argue that Cordoba was the better goalkeeper. But for that particular team, I think they needed Higuita's confidence, particularly with all that pressure, because he was never flustered. But the fact that he was in prison at the time tells you what a complicated situation Colombia was living in the early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, Johnny, arguably the biggest player in your club's history is arguably the goalkeeper with the best touch in the history of the game, right? Rogério Ceni. Do you by any chance know if Higuita played into was any sort of inspiration, because he was very famous for how good he was with the ball in his feet as well?
Yeah, no, I think Chilaver was more of an inspiration to Rogério Ceni than Higuita, because Rogério Ceni was more of a free kick. You know, he wouldn't really construct the play like Higuita would with this. He wouldn't come out and pass the ball around. He was really good at free kicks, right? 132 goals in his career, something insane like that. Yeah. Which Chilaver, the Paraguayan goalkeeper that played for Vélez for most of his career, was famous for and preceded Rogério Ceni. Yeah. But a goalie like Higuita in the scene definitely allowed maybe for a coach to even let a goalkeeper go up and take a free kick, you know, at a time where something like that would have been outrageous. So
you had to be confident. You had to be confident for being a goalkeeper and say, "Hey, that's my shit," you know?
Yeah.
I remember a couple of moments from Julio César that looked very inspired by Higuita, where he just like started running up the pitch, dribbling past 4 or 5 players, like no F's given. Very funny, guys. This has been fantastic. I'm having a blast. I'm sad that I have to say this, but we gotta be wrapping up soon. We have to.
Ooh, can I just say one more thing, because I can't let a Colombian League podcast end without me saying that Cúcuta Deportivo is back. I've lived 3 years with a person from Cúcuta, so now I'm a fan. And for anyone who saw that team in 2007 with Blas Perez, I mean, you gotta have some sympathy at least for Cúcuta, and it's a team that has a fan base that's too fanatic to not be present in the Colombian League. So I think they'll be in the 2nd division starting July, and hopefully back in the 1st division as soon as possible.
That is correct. Actually, a fun fact about them is that they played a lot of time in the 2nd division. Their stadium is huge, and they managed to be crowded every game, even if they were in 2nd division. So that is a great club as well.
Motilones, can't wait.
All right. So very quickly, before we go to Golazo Kids, guys, I'm gonna ask like 1-word answers, right? Simon, favorite Colombian player of all time, just one. That's gonna be tough. But...
El Pibe.
El Pibe.
Valderrama.
Yeah. But by the way, what does because we haven't spoken about that? What does El Pibe stand for?
It's an Argentinian word to the kid. That's correct. It's actually an Argentinian. Yeah, the kid.
Yeah.
The kid. Okay, the kid. All right. Awesome. Johnny.
Colombian nicknames is a whole other subject. There's some fascinating ones, but we have to do another
Deserves a
time.
podcast of its own.
Yeah.
My
We'll
favorite
do
of all
one
time?
on South American nicknames because I feel like all the countries have a really nice culture about that, and that's a great way to have you guys back on the show soon. Uh, Johnny, my man, favorite Colombian player of all time. Johnny always has like a funky accent.
Aristigol. No, it has to be Aristigol. He played for São Paulo in the late '90s, and yeah, like can't pick another one. For me, it's
His
Aristizábal.
his son plays for Atlético Nacional with Juan Pablo Angel's son, so you might get Aristigold number 2. We have to see.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, Esteban.
I gotta go with Ramel Falcao. Because he's I don't know. I grew up watching him. I'm 26 years old, so he is my icon right now. Everything he does is just magical for us. So for me, he's the biggest Colombian player ever. So yeah, I'm in love with him. Falcao, I love you, man.
If you're listening.
If you're listening, Falcao, you have a fan here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very mainstream, guys. I'm gonna stick with Higuita. I just think it was so cool. Like what he did for the game was so cool. Like that's sometimes we need to remember that even though it's a competition, it's entertainment, right? And that guy was like he was very freaking entertaining.
Pure
Very
show.
entertaining indeed. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm gonna give you guys all a chance to shout out your social medias, where you want people to find you, where you're gonna be up to. But before we do that, let's go to Golasso Kits. Just give me 1 second. I never get to do this fast enough, but okay. This is good. All right. By the way, Esteban, don't get offended, right? Like it's an algorithm. Like Johnny didn't pick like the kits or the paraphernalia that shows on top, right? Like it's not his decision. I'm sure he would have put something from Millonarios a little higher up.
Yeah, that one.
So here it is, guys. Johnny, yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So promo code FITA Colombia, FITA COLOMBIA, all caps, all together, 15% off any Colombian club, any Colombian national team. We have the big clubs we talked about. We have small clubs like Real Cartagena right there. There's a little bit of everything, all sizes, women's jerseys, kids' jerseys, and we ship worldwide. So if you're listening, I'm based in Miami, Florida, but if you're in the UK, if you're in South America, we ship worldwide. So yeah, go check it out.
Yeah, this, as always, like I always gotta big it up. It's so freaking cool. Let's go to the national team section really quickly. I love the Homer Simpson mug. So there it is. A couple of really. I mean,
We just had that blue poncho come in. If you scroll down, that's like a really cool item, I think.
Ooh, yeah, that's really cool.
So yeah, there's a little bit of everything. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, just type in FITA Colombia, and you get 15% off. Thank you, Johnny, once again for this. Sorry, I had to kill a mosquito. My bad.
No, thank you. It was great being here once again, and with amazing guests who knew a lot about the subject. So it's always great.
Yeah, no, this has been a blast. My man, Esteban. By the way, I kept saying your name, but I have to ask you if I was pronouncing it close to the right one. Like I never know if it's Esteban or Esteban.
Esteban, yeah, the first one.
Esteban.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm kind of used to, like I told you, I used to live in the United States, and they were born
Yeah.
like, hey, my name is Esteban. Esteban. Oh, Esteban. No, thank you for having me here, guys. I really love about speaking about football, knowing people about it. So yeah, that's you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Esfel, ESFEL. That's pretty much it. I also speak about football in a Mexican podcast with different friends, and I'm streaming on Twitch. I'm playing different games on Twitch as Esfel20, and that's it. Thank you for having me here. I will be happy to come back whenever you want to have me here, guys. And thank you so much once again.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You're always welcome back. By the way, I think one of those Mexican dudes is another friend of the channel, right? Sebas?
Yeah,
Really cool dude as well. And finally, Simon, thank you so much, man. Where can people find you? What are you going to be up to?
Yeah, so Twitter at Simon Edwards SAF. And I forgot to give you the punchline on the whole De Avila thing, right? So he retires at the age of like 36 and he comes back at the age of 46 a decade later, having not played any professional games, and he scores a goal in the Cali derby against Deportivo Cali. So not only is he about this big and a great player, he also scored at the age of 46, having been retired for a decade against the big rivals. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Go and enjoy that. So now in terms of what I'm doing, follow me on Twitter, and hopefully I'll have some news of some Colombian players off to Europe, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thanks for the invitation. It's been fun, and cheers.
Yeah, no, cheers, mate. Hope to have you back on the channel soon. Guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this like over 90 minutes of content that we have. Please do share this video. If you know anyone that has any interest on Colombian football and doesn't really have a manner of like looking it up, please point in our direction, because I feel like this was really informative. And like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Thank you guys so much. Let me find the outro. Johnny and I are going to be back in 2 weeks. I forget what we're going to be talking about, but it's going to be something good. Don't worry. Johnny, do you remember what I told you? Because
I think we discussed a couple of ideas. I'm not sure if we at the end picked exactly what we're going to talk about, but there's 2 or 3 places we can go to. We'll see.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Caribbean football very soon as well. We're going to go back to talking about the Libertadores and the Sudamericana. So stay tuned to all the contents we have. And tomorrow we're back with Gunners from all corners to talk a little bit about Arsenal, because we're doing well now and I want to. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a good one. Ciao.